So let's keep the focus on trade if we can. Joining us now is the White House Senior Counsel for Trade and Manufacturing, Peter Navarro. Peter, good to have you this morning.
Good to be with you, David. Yes, sir.
You know, actually, I'd like to start with April 2nd because you've talked a lot about it. We had Secretary Lutnick on yesterday. We can talk about a lot of other things. But what are your expectations, given that date is not far away, between now and then, and what will actually happen when it comes to the reciprocal tariffs that you and the rest of the administration have been obviously talking a great deal about?
David, it's a certainty. Let's get rid of that uncertainty that reciprocal tariffs are coming. The notion here is very simple, that the rest of the world cheats us. They can have consistently higher tariffs and higher non-tariff barriers. That was something institutionalized many decades ago in the World Trade Organization with its most favored nation way of approaching tariffs, and we've been paying those bills all along. I would love, just for a minute, though, because of what happened with the jobs report, to put all of this in some broader macro context, if I may. What we are in for the markets is a very healthy transition from Bidenomics, which was based on Keynesian overstimulus at the fiscal level, accommodated by monetary policy at the Fed irresponsibly, coupled with two severe negative supply shocks in the form of higher oil prices and substantially higher regulations. And what that has let us inherit here now is both an inflation that was the worst since the 70s because of the fiscal overstimulus and the supply shocks, and a deflationary impulse in these higher regs and higher oil prices. What we're moving to very rapidly is quite the opposite, a proven Trumpnomics based on fiscal responsibility, monetary responsibility, but most importantly, positive supply shocks. We've already seen the price of oil come down significantly along with gasoline prices. So that's all to the good. The deregulation movement is moving apace. And as you know, David, what we get out of positive supply shocks is that virtuous thing where we get both growth and deflation. So this is the transition that's moving forward. The tariffs and the fair trade play into that by attracting investment, creating jobs here, and driving up real wages. And
right.
I think it's important, when you saw the joint address the other night, one of the things that we should shine a bright light on it, Sarah was talking about investment and things like that. The president announced that expensing would be retroactive to January 1, so any restraints on investing over tax uncertainty. So we like where we are right now. Trade policy is an important part of restructuring the global international environment so that we benefit.
But Peter, to that extent that you're restructuring the global environment,
yes.
The uncertainty that comes along with that, the back and forth around certain tariffs being in place and not, and then what's coming on April 2nd, don't you think that does have the effect of freezing business to a certain extent in their capital allocation decisions? And I would even reference Treasury Secretary Besson earlier this morning on Squawk Box talking about a period of detox. Do you agree that is a potential outcome, at least near term?
Well, let's think about what's happened since President Trump took office. He's had, $1 trillion of new investment pledged here by the semiconductor companies, by Apple folks. We saw the last time with steel and aluminum tariffs, with steel, we had $15 billion of new investment. So I reject the idea that there's uncertainty. The uncertainty is created by the fact that people don't take President Trump at his word. Now, with respect to the negotiations that we're having now with Canada and Mexico, the way the media portrays it is, the president put tariffs on and then he takes them off and we're not certain what's happening. If you just simply parse what's going on, David, it's a negotiation and we're winning. I mean, we put the tariffs on, so what happens? The auto companies come to us And what do they pledge? They say, hey, we are actually going to start moving our supply chains to this country much faster than we should have been doing if we had believed you a couple of months ago. They're getting the picture. And then we've gotten more and more cooperation. There was an extraordinary, I don't praise the New York Times ever, okay? But yesterday was a rare event. They had their podcast, The Daily, on, where they sent a reporter deep into Mexico to visit fentanyl labs. And the conclusion of that report was, hey, the tariffs are working to break the back of fentanyl production in Mexico. So this is a negotiation. And come April 2nd, that's all about
Peter,
reciprocity. Yes, Sarah, how are you?
I'm good. I do think there is some confusion about what the point of the tariffs is, because you've been clear.
Point of which tariffs? Are we talking about the fentanyl drug war tariffs, or the ones coming April 2nd?
Those are fentanyl drug war tariffs, right? Those are fentanyl. But then we've also heard, talk about tariffs as revenue raisers. We've heard about them as ways to attract investment and manufacturing and jobs into the United States. We've heard about them as ways to level the playing field with our neighbors. We've heard about them as ways to bring tariff barriers and trade barriers down to zero. So I think there's
all of that can be true at the same time. So let me just parse that out for you very clearly. The tariffs that we are imposing now on Canada, Mexico, and China are directly aimed at the fentanyl problem, which is killing, has to date over 1 million people directly and indirectly, and continues to kill Super Bowl audience size numbers of Americans. And that's got to stop. That has got to stop. Now, that's one box. Second box is the reciprocal tariffs. The president has talked about this going back to being on Oprah in the 80s when Japan was cleaning our clocks, about how it's just not fair the way the world treats us. You can't have Germany selling us 8 times as many cars as we sell them because their tariffs are 15 times higher.
So why not instead negotiate a free trade deal with them where they have to bring tariff rates down to zero like us? Like, isn't the way to get no trade barriers and zero tariffs to do a free trade deal? Not to match them at higher tariffs. Then we're just copying their bad policy.
No, we're not copying their bad policy at all. The president's policy is, hey, if you want to lower your tariffs and non-tariff barriers, we're there. We're good. You treat us fairly, we're good. That's the negotiation right there. We're not going to wait for the World Trade Organization. We're not going to enter into 10-year negotiations with these countries. The president is saying right here and now, stop this. Stop this. Because it's costing this country jobs and factories and wealth. You run a trade deficit every year of $1 trillion. Sarah, if I gave you $1 trillion every year, how much of America
we have foreign direct investment coming in. We are the best stock market performance in the last year.
Yes.
We're outgrowing everybody. So why mess with? What problem are you solving for if they're all cheating us and ripping us off?
See, this is where you got to get to Akron. You got to get to Youngstown. You got to get to flyover country, Sarah. You go back there and ask folks in Cincinnati what's going on. Because when you say that to them, they're just going to shake their head. They're going to say, oh, come on. We've heard that for too long. The fact of the matter is there's too many people in this country who are hurting. I mean, if you just think about what the ravages of NAFTA and China and the WTO and the way trade has devastated our communities, particularly across the Rust Belt, but a lot of other places as well, North Carolina, textile. It's just people aren't buying what Wall Street's selling anymore. And that's why President Trump won in a landslide.